Am I the a-hole for telling my mom it's not my fault her husband can't afford to send her stepson to the same school I attend? I, 16M, go to a British international school, thanks to my dad. My mom's current husband, who she cheated on my dad with several years ago when they were together, can't afford to send his son Jack, 16M, to a similar school. She has tried to get my dad to withdraw me and send me to a public school instead because it isn't fair on Jack, but my dad said no. She has started visiting me when my dad isn't home and saying that I don't have to be in a fancy private school and that I should talk to my dad about withdrawing. She even told me it has given me an elitist hobby. I like reading Shakespeare. So, I told her that it isn't my fault her husband spent all his money on his mistress, something she has vented to me about before, and that she can't expect me to give up what I have for the sake of a guy I only see once a month. My mom looked really hurt and said I was being inconsiderate of her feelings before leaving. Update. So, I called mom and talked to her about it some more. I made it clear to her that I will never give up any of my opportunities for her stepson's sake. She got upset at me and told me that I'm selfish, so I told her that unlike her, at least I'm not a cheater who lost custody by snorting powder in front of her then 11-year-old son. That's it, hopefully she won't be bothering me anymore, going no contact now.
Would I be the a-hole for calling off my engagement after my fiancée let her brother borrow and crash my car while I was out of town? So last week, while I was on a business trip, my fiancée let her brother borrow my car since he needed one for whatever reason. He doesn't own one and she was using hers to go to work. So, when I came back home, I noticed the entire front bumper dented and basically destroyed. When I went to ask her what happened, she told me that she let her brother borrow it and he drove it into a pillar by accident. Some context, my car was a gift from my dad for my graduation and has tons of sentimental value to me. So I told her I expect her brother to foot the bill of around $20,000 to get the bodywork replaced after I got an estimate from the dealership. She said he couldn't do that since he hasn't held a job since COVID hit and wouldn't be able to afford it. This made me even more mad than I already was, so I left the apartment and got myself a hotel room and sent her brother a message saying I'd expect him to pay for the repairs, otherwise I'd get lawyers involved. I am currently considering calling off the engagement, or at least postponing the wedding, because I don't think I can trust my fiancée around my finances anymore after she basically loaned something worth $150,000 to her wildly irresponsible brother without telling me. This is after she already knows how much that car means to me, not just financially, but sentimentally as well, and then proceeded to try and defend her brother because I can afford to get it repaired while he can't. Am I the a-hole for leaving a pregnant woman outside of her doctor's office without a ride home? I was picking up my 2-year-old son from daycare, which is in a commercial building that also has a doctor's office. When I was strapping my son in his car seat in the parking lot, a clearly pregnant woman approached me and got quite close to where I was standing, like 2 feet from my open car door where I was bent over to buckle my son in. She asked for help with her Uber and said she doesn't speak English fluently. I spoke with the Uber driver on speakerphone, and he was at another branch of the doctor's office in another town, and he advised us to cancel and book another Uber. I offered to do this for her and canceled her ride, then typed the correct address into the app for her, but she kept deleting the address and then handing me the phone again. I told her I was putting the address in correctly for her, but she continued to delete the address. I felt like I couldn't do much more for her at that point, and said a few more times she needs to enter the correct address into the app. There was a clear language barrier. I only speak English and am average at Spanish, but her phone had Farsi letters on it which, other than recognizing it was Farsi, I have no knowledge of. I started to leave, and she kept asking me to stay and help her. I told her I needed to get home and that she wasn't allowing me to help her. She got very snippy towards me as I got in my car and left. I felt bad because she was pregnant and seemed distressed about getting home, but I felt like we were at a stalemate in what I could do for her, and I was also uncomfortable with how close she approached me initially, since I was with my young son, and that she kept deleting the address when I typed it in. So, am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for complaining about the signs at my daughter's preschool? My daughter, 3, just started preschool and has a teacher, I'm guessing college age, that is very honest, sometimes coming off as a bit rude. I had to stop allowing my daughter to bring her toys to school because they always get lost, and this teacher is no help when it comes to finding them. She brought a little Lego creation that she wanted to show her friends and didn't have it at the end of the day. I asked the teacher where it was. She didn't know. I asked her to look for it, and she said that there's no way she would be able to tell our Legos from theirs, and that my daughter would not be getting any Legos back. Another time she went to school with a sticker on her shirt. She was crying when I picked her up because the sticker was gone. I asked the teacher to look for it and she said, I will not be tearing apart my classroom and playground to find a sticker that fell off 4 hours ago. Other kids have gone home with my daughter's jackets, and we've had to wait a week to get it back. Lately, there's been 2 notices taped to the window that I am certain are written by this teacher. The first one says, your child is not the only one with the pink puffer jacket or Moana water bottle. Please label your child's belongings to ensure they go home with the right person. And the second one says, we understand caring for a sick child is difficult, but 12 of them isn't any easier. Please keep your child home if they have these symptoms. In my opinion, there is absolutely no reason for these notes to be this snarky and obviously aimed at very specific parents. I complained to the director about this teacher's conduct and the notices on the window, but nothing has come of it. My husband thinks I'm overreacting. Am I the a-hole for complaining?
Am I the a-hole for making my oldest pay back a $3,000 dress she ruined? My oldest, Bethany, 16F, has a step-sibling Maria, 14F. Bethany and I are white while my husband and Maria are Mexican descent. They have been in each other's lives since they were 6 and 7 and overall, the relationship was good until recently. Maria's quinceañera is coming up and my husband and his ex-wife took her to get her dress. The dress and alterations came to around $3,000. My daughter has been very jealous of the whole party. I've informed her it is part of the culture, just like when she had a huge sweet 16 party with her friends. I have spent more time with her to try to make her feel better about it and she got her own much cheaper dress for the party. The party is supposed to be in 2 weeks but my daughter, after an argument with Maria about the TV, scribbled Sharpie all over the expensive dress and ripped the back. Long story short, everyone was pissed. I gave money to my husband and his ex to try to get a new dress ASAP. I informed my daughter she will need to get a job and pay back the full price of the dress as punishment. We got in a huge argument over it and how the whole situation isn't fair and that I am choosing Maria and being a huge jerk. So, am I being an a-hole? Edit. To answer some questions, I spent a lot for Bethany's sweet 16 party, around $4,000 for the venue and all that. Maria's party I think is around $6,000 in total, but the cost is split between my husband and his ex, so he really spent $3,000 on her party. The difference in the dress I got Bethany for the quinceañera is a lot. I only spent $450 on a dress she picked out for the party. You wear basically a prom dress as a guest to a quinceañera, not the huge fluffy dress like Maria is going to wear.
You remind me so much of myself. My ghost was not your normal, everyday ghost. He didn't walk through walls, rattle chains, or move things around the room. In fact, perhaps you wouldn't find him scary at all. But he terrified me, and only me. Every night I would wake up at 3:12 a.m. For the first few nights my dog growled and barked at him, but after some time my dog came to expect his nightly visit. I too was scared, early on, but after some time I would simply join him in the kitchen, sometimes making myself a cup of tea. Because it wasn't his appearance that scared me, but his words. He would tell me that he used to live in my apartment, my dingy, unwelcoming, one-bedroom apartment, and that he spent his whole life here. He never married and rarely socialized. He came to grow comfortable in this apartment, and soon he found that he hardly left. The few friends he had slowly disappeared, weekends alone slowly turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, and eventually he realized that it had been years since he had stepped foot outside. He would tell me the same thing every night, word for word, with the same lament in his voice, and just before he would disappear, he would tell me the same thing, "You remind me so much of myself." I wasn't like him, I would say, I was different, I was better. But lonely weekends turned into lonely weeks turned into lonely months. For years we had the same conversation, every night, for 65 years. I can't remember the last time I saw him. One night he disappeared and never came back. I sat at that kitchen table waiting for him, but he never returned. But I'm not lonely. A young man moved in to live with me and on nights when he can't sleep, he would join me for a chat at the kitchen table. He's such a lovely young man, he reminds me so much of myself. Am I the a-hole for ruining the family gathering over a joke my sister made? For some context, I, 28M, and my wife, Claire, 25F, are expecting. Claire is currently 8 months pregnant, our son being expected to be born in November 2023. This isn't our first pregnancy though. Claire got pregnant 2 years ago, but the day our daughter was born, she passed away. This crushed us both mentally, especially my wife. Well, I have a sister, Hannah, 19F, who for lack of better words, lacks sympathy. Our parents always try to defend her and say she has a dark sense of humor, but this time, she took it too far. We were at a family gathering yesterday and it all went well, until the topic of the pregnancy came up. Everybody was asking how Claire was and some of females, like my aunts, grandmother, mom, were asking about the birthing plan when my sister says, while laughing, "Let's hope this baby isn't like the last," talking about mine and Claire's daughter. I completely lost it. I started screaming at Hannah, telling her that was completely rude of her, and that if she ever says stuff like that again she wouldn't be able to ever even see our son. Hannah started crying while Claire was already crying. My dad took me away from my sister and I got yelled at for making Hannah cry over a joke and that I ruined the gathering. So, am I the a-hole? I will admit I may have been harsh with threatening to not let Hannah see my son, but this isn't the first time she made a joke like that.
Am I the a-hole for telling a coworker that his wife isn't that pretty? I, 25F, have been at my workplace for almost 2 years now and get along well with most of my colleagues. We regularly go out every other weekend and other activities which most of our colleagues join, including my colleague Max, 33M. Max is a very outgoing guy, extroverted, and has been at my workplace the longest, as the turnover here is quite fast. I get along well with him and would consider him my best friend at work. We share banter and have a good laugh. We have similar extroverted personalities. Max is the life of the party and workplace. His wife of 10 years used to come to the activities sometimes, before I joined the workplace, but no longer does since having a baby a while back. What really annoys me is how Max always puts his wife on a pedestal. He's always going on about how she is the best cook, has the best looks and figure he has ever seen. A simple conversation between colleagues regarding which celebrity we fancy would be, "Nah man, no one beats my wife in terms of looks. Who is the best looking in the workplace?" "Nah, nobody here. I've got really high standards. Have you seen my wife?" Some of our colleagues have agreed with him, saying that his wife is really gorgeous, but I'm sure they are just humoring him. We were going through each other's videos on TikTok when another coworker commented to Max's wife resembled an anime character. "She's slim, long black hair and Asian," and I joked that she's not that pretty. Max got offended and retorted that she didn't need fake eyelashes and fake hair to look passable and that he understood why I needed them. I got angry and told him to piss off. Since then, Max has not been speaking to me and makes passive-aggressive comments.